billion of economic development, that's with a B, has been announced in the Commonwealth over the past 2 weeks. The announcements got rolling earlier this month on August 5th when General Matter, a uranium enrichment company, announced a $1.5 billion facility in Paducah. That same week, Apple announced its new $2.5 billion commitment to Corning's Harrodsburg facility to produce all of the glass on future iPhones and Apple Watches. And this week, Ford announced $1.9 billion in investment to modernize its Louisville plant to begin rolling out electric vehicles by 2027. And the latest announcement came on Wednesday when General Electric announced its 5-year U.S. manufacturing operations plan, highlighted by a $490 million project at Appliance Park in Louisville. So a lot of different numbers there, but let's talk about the overall impact. Senator Tom, let's start with you. What's spurring all of this? Is the timing just convenient, or is there really some sort of push that's making all these announcements?
Well, boy, I can be quite talkative, but I want to give Senator Reid a chance to speak. So let me say this. The $6.3 billion is an eye-popping number. There's no question about that. And that's going to bring in over 4,000 jobs as a virtue of these 4 plants coming on. But I think the bigger story here, Bodie, is what Governor Beshear has done since he's come to office. He hasn't been in office 6 years yet, Bodie. And in less than 6 years, he has brought in over $60 billion of investment in Kentucky. More importantly, he's brought in over 50,000 jobs here in his work in bringing new investment, new manufacturing, new technologies to Kentucky. I mean, that's unheard of. He's already, in terms of business investment, in terms of job production, the highest producing governor in the history of Kentucky.
Well, you think he gets all the credit?
Well, of course, you don't do this alone, Bodie. But leadership plays an important role, and he's certainly been the leader in bringing this investment. So he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for this. And what he's done, Bodie, and I'll let Senator Reid talk, is that he's no longer made Kentucky a flyover state. People are talking about Kentucky all across the nation. I've just came back, and in fact, Senator Reid and I just come back from 2 legislative conferences. And I can't tell you how many people stopped me when they say, Kentucky, you're a Kentucky senator, and want to talk about what's going on in Kentucky.
Well, let's bring in Senator Reid here. What are your thoughts on all these announcements? Who do you think deserves all the credit?
I got to give some credit to the legislators too. Before I got there, I've only been in this game for about 10 minutes. 8 months now. With my colleagues here, and the Republican majority in the Senate and in the House have done a lot of legislation to really kind of key up a lot of stuff in Kentucky. A lot of making Kentucky more of a manufacturer superpower here. And I got to give credit to President Trump. His economic strategies are doing well. People like the dog tariffs. And here's GE announcing $3 billion coming back to Kentucky. They're bringing their manufacturing from China to Louisville, Kentucky. Washers and dryers can be made right here. So that's a good thing.
What do you think is it that's making Kentucky such a prime location versus other parts of the United States? Why come here?
Well, again, I would say that because of the leadership in this state, people recognize Kentucky's natural assets, Bodie, which is often overlooked. We're in the central part of the United States. Bodie, we are a 14-hour drive from 2/3 of the nation's population. 14 hours, 1 day's drive, and you can reach 2/3 of the nation's population. We're centrally located. We've got great highways in this state. You got 75, 64, 24, 69. So we're primed to be a center for economic development here in this country.
Is there more you want to add to that?
I would have to agree with Senator Thomas because Louisville, UPS hub is here. We got the Ohio River going through there. If you look at the map, you throw a dart right in the middle of the eastern U.S. and there it is. We can get to New York City. We can get to Florida. I mean, Kentucky is an up-and-coming superpower here, and I'm glad that people are starting to realize that.
All right, less than 30 seconds left here, so some quick answers. I have an Apple iPhone. I have a GE washing machine at home. I drive a Chevy, not a Ford. But what's the next big name company, a company whose name you'd recognize that you'd like to see make some sort of investment here? Just spitball.
NVIDIA, no question.
NVIDIA?
That's a good question. I'm proud to say that Apple's got a big thing going on down in Harrodsburg, just down the road. With the Corning and $2.5 billion for their Gorilla Glass. That's pretty awesome. And then we got General Matter down in Paducah. That's saying something. You know, we're going to be producing high-end uranium. So that's an up-and-coming thing that it's going to be, you know, making the all-in or the all-of-the-above energy sources for Kentucky. You know, that's big.
Some big stuff. We'll have to leave it right there, folks. We still have more ahead this morning coming up after the break. House State Democrats are sounding the alarm to potential cuts to Medicaid. The tour they're launching right after this.
You're watching Red, White, and Bluegrass.